What's up, beauties? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Coach Shaniqua, and I help Kingdom Women entrepreneurs build brands online. I hope that you guys have been enjoying this channel. Today, I want to talk about something that is just so good to me. It's just so good to me, and I hope it's good to you too. I'm going to be sharing 3 things that I just really wish that someone had told me, had shared with me, had warned me about, that were really keeping my business stuck as a Kingdom Woman entrepreneur. And I will tell you that it had very little to do with my output. We have a saying at her Kingdom brand, and it's building brands from the inside out. And that is not just practically building up the internal workings of a brand, like mission, vision, all of those kinds of things, but it's also like the inside of the individual, putting the vessel of God before the vision, right? Because although God has given us vision, He also cares about the vessel. All right, so let's get into it. I have a bit of a confession. I used to be a course junkie. And what I mean by that is I would download all kinds of resources. I would join programs. I had no problem investing in myself, free things, paid things, conferences, workshops, planners, journals. I mean, just all kinds of things, right? I had a vision in my brain and in my mind. I had an idea, a fleshly idea, right, of how to accomplish that vision. And I was committed to doing everything possible in my power, keep that in mind, to accomplish and achieve and live out and experience that vision. But whether you know it or not, it is not through human ability that we are ever going to be able to accomplish God-given vision, okay? If you are a person who is called and who feels led to accomplish any level of a God-given vision, that is going to require you to come to the end of yourself and your human understanding. And that's what I want to talk about today. Don't get me wrong, I'm extremely grateful for every coach that I've ever had. I'm extremely grateful for every conference that I've been blessed to attend, every workshop, every workbook, every planner, every journal. I'm grateful for it all. The reason I'm grateful for it all is because it was God the whole entire time preparing me, right, for this assignment in this way. So anyway, I used to be a course junkie, and I start there, and I say that to say, through all the courses and through all the planners and through all the workbooks and all the things that I was not afraid to invest in over these last 5-6 years in building this brand. It's been about 3 or 4 years now since that time. But in all of those things, no one, even the faith-based ones, ever told me that these 3 things were hindrances, blockages, stumbling blocks, bottlenecks, whatever you want to call them, in my business. I'm sharing my 3 with you, but I want you to take them. I want you to sit with them. I want you to place them at the feet of the Father, and I want you to ask with intention and with expectation. I want you to ask God, are there any other things that I'm not seeing, that my coach can't reveal to me, that my favorite content calendar can't show me, that my favorite strategy can't reveal to me? Is there anything that has been a stumbling block, a blockage, or a hindrance to how you want my business to flow? I have to admit, I'm a strategy girly, okay? I love me some strategy. I love me some practical application, baby. And I've worked very hard to find a delicate balance, a holy tension, we'll call it, between my practical brain and what's happening spiritually, right? I don't know if you realize it or not, but building a kingdom brand is ministry. I don't know if you see it or not, but if God has commissioned you into the marketplace, it is because souls are at hand. It is because because through your brand, through your products, through your services, the Lord is desiring to reconcile with someone. The Lord is desiring to use your voice and your brand, your story and your ministry to reach someone that the church can't seem to touch, okay? The church can't seem to reach. And what a beautiful assignment. One of my favorite scriptures, foundation for God's conference that he led me to host a few years ago. And also I believe I've shared it here on like the 3 YouTube videos that I've uploaded. I've shared it many a times on my Instagram page as well. But it's Matthew 5 verses 13 through 16. And it talks about being the salt and the light of the earth. And I just love this idea and this depiction that in our filthiness, in our unjust selves, in this human flesh, right? The Lord has called us to preserve salt and to be the light in dark places. How beautiful is that? That tells me that everything that the enemy is trying to convince me of about myself, every lie that I'm unqualified, that I'm not good enough, that I made this mistake and that mistake and nobody's gonna listen and my video's not perfect and I don't have a cute little microphone to hold like her, I don't have a cute little background like him, like all of these things do not matter. Because when you have been commissioned by God, God also gives you authority in the area that he has called you to. So it doesn't matter what your past or your history is. I've shared some of mine with you today. It doesn't matter what mistakes you feel like you've made. You are still called. There is still something burning on the inside of you that cannot and should not be contained. Why? Because there's someone that the Lord wants to reach through your fire. There's someone that the Lord wants to touch and encounter through your story and through your offers and through your expertise. And the longer you sit and stew and you sit and wallow in the complexity of social media, content, going viral, building a brand, the longer you sit and stew in the complexity of all of these things, it just becomes a melting pot for stuck. It becomes a melting pot for stuck, right? And the thing about branding and the thing about marketing is that so many people do it so many different ways, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? And so you're always going to find, hear, and see conflicting things. This is why I do not necessarily teach my clients how, right? How God is commissioning them. I coach through guidance, thought-provoking, spirit-led encounters, right? There's some things that I have methods for, that I have frameworks for, that you are more than welcome to take and refine with the Holy Spirit in a way that works for you. But I do not encourage my clients to copy and paste strategies, frameworks, and formulas because they've worked for me. Okay. And so that's the thing that you have to learn to discern. That's the thing that you have to pray for discernment about, is how to take the things that you are coming across as a recovering course junkie like me, like I once was. How do you take the things that you are coming across online and how do you lay them at the feet of the Father so that he can reveal to you which parts to take, change, keep, remove, add to. Okay, I've talked way too long. This intro is getting way too extensive. So let's get into the first one. Okay, I had to get my laptop, but blocker number 1, right, that prevented me and my business from reaching the full potential of what God had called me to is unhealed spiritual bondage. Okay. And so unhealed spiritual bondage does not always look obvious. Okay. I did not know that I was experiencing unhealed spiritual bondage, but I also didn't have the right leadership to help me to see in the spirit realm what I was going through and what I needed. Unhealed spiritual bondage can look like prioritizing religion over relationship. That means you're kind of like going through the motions of your faith, like you're going to church, you're doing all of these things, but you're never truly walking in intimacy, relationship, closeness with the Father. It can also look like living from a trauma lens. You don't trust people because someone hurt you in your past. All kinds of things, right? It can also look like bloodline curses, right? Sometimes unhealed spiritual bondage is not even your fault, okay? It's not even your fault, but it's something that you have to contend with if you want it to end with you. And the most common form of unhealed spiritual bondage is agreement with darkness. Agreement with darkness, okay? You might be thinking, now, I would never, okay? I am a child of God and I would never be in agreement with the kingdom of darkness. But the reality is, if you have any level of fear, agreement with darkness. If you have shame and guilt that is crippling, agreement with darkness. If you find yourself fearing the faces of men and what people are going to say as you build your brand and display your expertise and your brilliance and all of the things, and you're concerned at what people are going to say and if they don't like you, agreement with darkness. Thing is, you can't convince yourself of something that you don't believe in your heart. So if you're struggling with unhealed spiritual bondage, the solution is only deliverance. You can have all the content calendars, you can do all the things, but at the end of the day, the only answer to unhealed spiritual bondage is deliverance. Deliverance is Jesus setting you free from the chains and the bondage that the enemy desires to keep you in, so that you will not ever operate in the totality and in the fullness of what God is calling you to do and accomplish in the earth. In the parable of the talents, the first servant buried his gifts, not because he didn't have the same opportunity as servants 2 and 3, but he buried his gifts out of fear. Deliverance is necessary because it breaks the yoke. It breaks the tie of fear and shame and lack mindset, fearing the faces of men, what they said about you in the 3rd grade, right? All of these things require deliverance, and some require therapy. You have to heal and uproot these things, because when you're saying, oh, I don't know what to talk about, or oh, I don't know what to say, or oh, I don't know what to post, or oh, I struggle with being consistent. These are cycles and these are ideas that prevent you from, again, operating in the fullness and the totality of what God is calling you to accomplish and do in the earth. I want you to see deliverance as a doorway, as an entry point, as the starting place for complete clarity and confidence in your marketplace assignment. All right, y'all. So blocker number 2 is false humility and small thinking. I love you guys, but this thing right here, this mind, this brain, this right here, it is a huge hindrance and a huge block for so many kingdom women entrepreneurs. And I think it's because we think that we are being humbled, but false humility is very different than being humble. Meekness is very different than false humility. False humility is living below the identity that God has already given you. It's living below the authority that God has already graced you with. False humility is you minimizing the work that God has commissioned you to do in the marketplace. False humility is not a badge of honor. And I think that for so long, kingdom women, Christian women, All women have worn this false humility as a badge of honor. So much so that I think that we've made it uncommon and unusual to see women who are confident in who God has called them to be. Instead, we sit in the, oh, it's not a big deal, or oh, it's cool, I just love it, I just want to help. Like, I've totally been that person. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be like servant one in the parable of the talents. This shows up in how you do business and how you show up in the mantle of marketplace, because sometimes it will lead you to undercharge, right? Sometimes it will lead you to say yes to collaborations and partnerships that God didn't call you to. It can lead to delay and procrastination, preventing you from showing up, causing you to second guess yourself, or sometimes it even looks like hiding or separating your faith and your beliefs from your business. And that too is not the way that God has called us to do kingdom business. I am guilty of undercharging. I am guilty of saying yes to doing things for free that God didn't call me to do for free. And I put myself in situations and my family in situations that I had to ask God to get us out of, even though I got us into this mess. And so when you are building a brand, when you are trying to grow a business or a ministry, right? And false humility just continues to consume you, I want you to understand that this is something that your favorite, like I've already said, content calendar, you can have the perfect strategy, you can have the best Instagram plan, you can have the best TikTok formulas, hashtags, all of the things. But if you do not lay down and set aside false humility and small thinking, you are going to continue to be stuck in your business. This is not to say that you have to name it and claim it or sit and write 100 times, I'm so happy and so grateful that every single day I make $1,000. Like, I'm not saying you have to do that. Please don't do that. What I am saying is that you have to know that you know that you know before you get up from your prayer closet, before you hit live, before you hit post. You have to have an inner knowing that God has called you to this. If you don't, you will waver every time. You'll waver based on who's watching, based on who's liking, based on who's buying, based on who's commenting. But when you release false humility and small thinking, you operate from a place knowing that heaven is backing me, that God has called me, and that I am going to see the fruits of this labor. So I'm going to work. So I'm going to serve. So I'm going to show up as unto the Lord. Not as unto the Instagram algorithm, not as unto what my followers and people want to see, not as unto the latest trends, but for the sake of the souls and the people that God's calling me to serve. I see false humility and small thinking show up in so many different areas as I'm coaching and teaching and training and speaking and all of the things. But the main areas that I see it in is when it comes to pricing and when it comes to showing up online. And so I want to give you something practical that you can do to help you break from the bondage of false humility and small thinking. I want you to go back and I want you to think about your very first memory of money. And the reason I want you to go back and think about your earliest money memory is because it's going to help you identify where your belief system about money stems from. Going back to your earliest memory about money is going to help you understand your attachment or disattachment to money or detachment to money, so that going forward, you can build a new healthy mindset and relationship with money. And then you can learn to build and to price your offers in a way that's in alignment with the kingdom and with the word of God. I also want you to ask yourself this question: who or what taught me that playing small was safer than being bold? And I want you to really sit with that question. Don't run, don't run, don't run, don't run. I really want you to sit with that question. I want you to take as many hours, as many days, as many weeks as you need to really get to the root of who or what taught you that playing small was safer than being bold, especially when the word of God calls us to be bold. Okay, y'all, this last blocker, it's a little bit personal for me. It's like a little personal ick. But the third blocker is confusion and scattered actions. Okay, the Bible does tell us that faith without works is dead. Okay, however, if you are taking actions that are not well thought out, or that are not well planned, and that are not ready for you to execute in excellence, then you are not being a good steward. And what I see often is we lack courage and we lack confidence, we lack boldness. We live most of our lives from a place of false humility, thinking low of ourselves. And so what happens is, once we get a boost of courage, we want to do all of the things. We want to drop all the things. We want to release all the things, because right now in this moment we have courage and we want to do something with that courage, and we want to channel that courage, right? And then after we do it, after we launch it, we don't get the results that we were hoping for or expecting. We get burnt out, we get tired, we lack endurance, and then we end up falling back into the same cycle. How do I know, you might ask? Because I've been there, done that plenty of times, okay? And so this is why I am so passionate about strategic being prepared before you drop or launch something. If you want to expand your business beyond friends, family, and supporters, you have to have a strategic marketing plan. The way that I kind of coach and teach in all of the things is deliverance is what sets us free. It's the foundation for stepping into, again, the fullness and the totality of who God called us to be and what He has commissioned us to do in the marketplace. But then the renewing of our minds, right? That allows us to continue to live from that place of freedom, right? Every day we have to keep renewing our minds and keep reminding ourselves and keep living in the I know that God has commissioned me. I know that God has called me, and I rebuke every lie that tries to convince me otherwise. That's a daily thing that we have to keep doing. You will never not have to do that, because as soon as you become a threat to the enemy, he is going to get loud. He is going to continue to go after you. There's not ever going to be a time, right, in your life as a carrier of God's glory that the enemy is not going to be after your mind, okay? And so then we step into strategy. Strategy allows us to turn vision into movement. Many of us don't lack vision. Many of you don't lack vision. Many of you don't lack creativity. Many of you know exactly what God has called you to do. You know exactly how to get people results. You know exactly what your story is. It's a matter of getting it out of your head and onto paper, getting it out of your head and into a Canva graphic, getting it out of your head and into the format of a video or reel that people can actually consume. And so what happens is you get this burst of courage and you put something out there, and maybe you do that and it doesn't go so well. Or maybe you do that and it does go well and you don't know how to duplicate or repeat it. And then there's some of you that, there are many things that you are gifted at. There's many ideas that you have and you're just really not sure how to bring them all together. That is where strategy comes into place. Strategy allows you to create a clear and concise plan for getting the solution that you provide into the hands of the people that need it. And so you have to see strategy as a bridge, okay? Strategy is a bridge that allows you to connect your offer, aka solution, to the people that need it. This is where we talk about clarifying your message, refining your story, how to package, promote, and position your brand. All of these things that allow you to get in front of the people that God's calling you to serve. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about strategy. There's lots of strategy things on my Instagram, and we are going to be talking a lot about strategy and talking through strategy a lot in the 8-week collective and at the retreat. And so I'm going to take a few minutes here at the end of the video to talk a little bit more about the retreat. But I want you to think about what solution, right, do you provide to your ideal clients and customers? Because at the end of the day, you don't just provide a product or a service, right? You have to see what God has commissioned you to offer and to do in the marketplace as a solution. When you start thinking about it as a solution, showing up online should be easy. Being consistent in emailing your list should be easy, because you know that every day when you wake up, you are carrying a solution and you are doing everything in your power to get that solution in the hands of the right people. This might be a little bit dramatic for some of you guys, but this is how radical I encourage my clients to think. You have the cure to cancer in your hands, and someone has cancer right now. How are you getting the solution and the cure for cancer to the people who have cancer? Now, the cancer, quote unquote, that God has called you to create a cure for is going to look different than the cancer I'm creating a cure for, or that God has called me to create a cure for, right? That doesn't mean that yours is more important or less important than mine. It just means that you have to stay in your lane. And I realize that this is really challenging for us. The Bible tells us that we are many members in one body, but we want to be many parts of the body. We want to be the arm, the leg, the eyeballs, the feet. We want to be everything when God is just calling us to be the arm. And so I think a lot of times people find it difficult to operate in their what I call zone of genius or area of expertise or niche, because it makes them feel boxed in. And so I want to encourage you today to, one, figure out what is the solution, not the product, not the service, not the how many hours people get, not the how the design looks, but what is the actual solution or transformation that you offer your ideal clients and customers. And then I want you to identify your area of expertise. What is your zone of genius so that you can operate there more often? Successful people operate in their zone of genius as often as possible. And then they collaborate with other people in areas that they may not be as great in other areas that they may not be as competent in, right? We don't know everything. That's why God has called us to community. That's why we are many members, but one body, because the elbow helps the shoulder and the legs help the torso. And we all, as we operate in our respective areas, all continue to make up a body that advances the kingdom of God. So I hope that this video has helped you identify and maybe even break off some blockages and some hindrances in your life and in your business that can help you just move forward and get unstuck, because what you are building is necessary. What God has commissioned you to do in the marketplace is crucial to the advancement of his kingdom and the fulfillment of his promises. And I pray that today you can see that, right? I pray that today you can see that. And even if you can't see it today, I pray that it has planted a seed for God to water. And I pray that you would take the things that you've heard today and that you would just sit with the Lord. That you would just sit with the Lord about what was for you, what wasn't for you, what things you need to apply, what areas of opportunity you have, but also what areas are you thriving in. I love you guys. I thank you so much for watching. I pray that you have a phenomenal rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys later. I want to talk to you a little bit about the 8-week collective and retreat combo that we're going to be doing next year, 2026. And so last year, or this year, we did the retreat. It was a 3-day all-inclusive retreat for Kingdom Women entrepreneurs. And what we did is we did like 2 or 3 pre-work sessions leading up to the retreat, and those were great, but it felt very crammed. Okay, when we're doing this work, it takes time when we're building something with integrity, and we're building something that's meaningful, and we're building something that we want to execute well. It takes time. And so instead of cramming everything into 2 to 3 2 to 3 hour pre-work sessions, the Lord put on my heart to do an 8-week collective with the type of clients that God has called me to serve. I'm going to always spend at least 6 months with them. And I know there are some coaches who, they don't want to invest that amount of time into people. But many of my clients I have for 6 months to a year, and some even longer, right? And so I've just accepted that at this point. And so this 8-week collective is just another way for me to truly invest time and effort and energy and attention and all of the things into a small cohort of women that God is calling to this cohort. And so we'll meet once a week throughout the 8 weeks, and each week we will cover a layer of building your kingdom brand, right? And then at the end of those 8 weeks, we should have a roadmap, a plan, a blueprint of execution for you to come to the retreat with. At the retreat, we're going to do all of the things necessary, right, to set your business up to launch. A launch is not just, hey, I created this iPhone, click the link in my bio to buy it. A well thought out strategic launch requires processes, funnels, it requires systems, it requires processors, it requires a variety of different sequences and things for it to all work and flow together. You need automations, you need systems, you need processes, you need all of these things for a well thought out, intentional, and strategic launch. So at the retreat, we always work through a level of deliverance. Okay, we always start there. We always give the first fruits of the retreat to the Lord. So we always start there. Day 2 is a working day. We are working all day long. We are implementing and putting into place the things that you came from the 8 weeks. As a result of the 8 weeks, you should come with a plan and a blueprint for everything that needs to be in place in order for you to launch. And by the end of the day, Saturday, the second day, you should be ready to hit go, okay, for the most part. Day 3 is a content day. We bring in a professional photographer so that you have very clean, good quality images that you can use to promote your launch. And then we also do what I call peer-to-peer content creation. And so myself, other people that I may invite to help me facilitate the retreat, and also other attendees of the retreat, you guys and us, we will create content for each other. So we'll get B-roll, we'll have some scripted things that you may want to, record and do, but it's peer-to-peer content creation. And so everybody leaves with their content. The only thing you have to wait for are the professional photos from the photographer. So you bring your camera, you bring your laptop, you bring your microphone, you bring your phone, you bring your chargers, and it is literally a weekend to get it done. By the time you leave, you should be ready to hit go on your launch. You should be ready to post. You should have a content and plan and a schedule, but you should also have the actual content that you need. I do teach a process for launching. I do teach a pre-launch, active launch, post-launch strategy, and we will talk more about that within the 8-week collective so that you can be organized and prepared for a strategic launch. And so I want to encourage you, if you've gained something from this video, if you've been watching me, or if you saw the last retreat and you missed it, I want to encourage you to take advantage of the retreat plus the 8-week collective. I pray that you will consider joining us at the retreat. There's only 7 spots available. Everything is included at the retreat. So we provide the majority of your meals. I think last year there was only like 1 meal that we didn't provide. Your lodging is included. Your materials are included. The only thing you gotta do is show up. It is truly all inclusive. We got everything that you need for the most part. And so again, I hope this video has been helpful. I pray that you will ask the Lord if this retreat / collective is the right fit for you. The collective is going to start in January, and then the retreat is going to be in March, and it's going to be in North Carolina. So I love you guys. I thank you so much for watching. I pray that you have a phenomenal rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys later.